Look at this cute little baby bus. And they're going to let me drive it.
Mark made me a deal. If I wear the blue vest, I can drive it, right?
Nah, they're not letting me drive it out on the street.
Oh, is this my sun visor? Oh, okay.
But if we did leave the transit yard, I legally could. And you could too.
Dummy like me can pick it up right away and be like, oh yeah, you push D for drive, and there's no clutch pedal or anything. Of course, I don't think any of the big buses probably have clutch pedals anymore, do they?
And that has this transit agency pretty excited.
Now, this is where I'd say something witty about this bus, but there's nothing to say. It's just like a little car.
In fact, they're buying 15 of these baby buses. And as public agencies do, they threw themselves a little celebration. Now, ribbon cutting is not a news story, but what they plan to use this bus for certainly is.
Santa Maria faced an interesting situation with its short-range transit plan.
It's not easy for a small transit system to figure out where are all the buses going to go.
We might bring to the public, hey, here's the most efficient and effective business plan. But the public will say, hey, thank you, that's great, but this is what our need is.
Transit manager Gian Giano tells me buying a new bus could cost $500,000 or more.
And with that kind of a price tag, you can imagine it sort of limits the number of buses you can have rolling around your city.
It's a lot of data gathering, from ridership data to even cellular tracking data.
Transit planners need to know where things are.
Schools, big work sites, big commercial sites.
And knowing who their riders are.
Our distribution of riding public is not equal throughout our city, so there might be a concentration in some areas of town versus others.
And putting a new plan together takes many, many years of public meetings.
Coming to the public, getting their feedback, going back, reconciling that with the data.
He says it's kind of a transit planner's job to balance what on paper is the most efficient system you can get for the money, from a technical standpoint, with the heart and emotion of what the community feel they want and need, and then to try to strike that balance.
And that ultimately shapes a recommendation that we bring to our city council to adopt, bless, and then for us to ultimately implement.
There are 3 goals in transit planning, and no matter which one you chase, it comes at the cost of the other 2. So for instance, some riders say, well, I want good coverage, right? So that means running buses all over town and spreading them out. But other people say, well, I want speed. Well, that means taking some bus stops away so it can skip stops and the bus can keep moving. But that comes at the cost of coverage because now there are neighborhoods where the bus doesn't stop. And other people say, well, I want frequency. I don't want to wait a long time for a bus. Well, if that's the case, you take all of the buses and you put them like up and down the main street so that they're running every 3, 4, 5 minutes. But then that comes at the cost of coverage because then, well, the buses only run up and down one street. No matter what you do, somebody's going to pay for it and serve us a different way.
Yeah, that is certainly the transit conundrum. I can get into my car and choose the most efficient path to my final destination. But as a public transit rider, I might need to deviate from that fastest path for the sake of the transit system serving others.
Of course, the more buses that you run, the fewer trade-offs you have to make. But there's a problem with that.
Even if a transit agency were to find themselves with an unlimited number of buses, which never happens, they're certainly never going to run into an unlimited number of drivers.
Especially after this.
For essential activities.
As we all know, 2020 is a pivotal year that reshaped our world and especially the transit industry.
The pandemic stay-at-home order gave a good excuse for the largest generation of workers America has ever seen to say, you know what, maybe now is a good time to retire. And they're continuing to retire. And so that's making a lot of industries really have to struggle to stay staffed up, including this industry.
Driver shortages. We understand that school districts are struggling with bus service.
And not anybody can drive a vehicle like this. They need a commercial driver license because it has more than 10 seats.
Individuals with such licenses are hard to come by. Our contractor has to recruit and help individuals secure that license before they can become bus drivers.
But there's a different set of rules for this guy.
The baby bus just happens to have fewer than 10 seats.
So technically, you could have a regular driver's license and we can get you at least driving this type of vehicle until you onboard your CDL license.
Okay, so back to our 2 problems. We can't have buses everywhere we want because buses are expensive to buy and operate, and the operators have to be trained commercial drivers. That gave a company in Turkey an idea, building a baby bus.
It's a 100% electric bus. Very quiet.
BMW batteries are used here and some components from i3 or i8.
Taking the general idea of a big city bus, but cutting the length in half. And obviously, you can't just do that. You have to start from the ground up. But that does let them design it where they can put an electric motor under the driver's seat and batteries below where the passengers sit. The middle where the door is sits low to the ground. It's a type of vehicle that's never really existed before.
Structure is unique. It took us more than 2 years to come up with this design of this bus. Because there is no predecessor. It's not something replacement to any type of vehicle.
The legacy transits really don't know what to do with it yet.
But they have 3 ideas they'd love to sell cities on, including this purpose.
Yeah, where's he going? Come back, smart bus. Just driving away.
This is where the annoying sponsorship would go, but thanks to contributors at patreon.com/roadguiderob, instead I'll show you pictures of Santa Maria's King Falafel, which is mostly known for burgers. Since the 1973 law, transit agencies in the U.S. send a vehicle like this to a disabled person's house so they can have equal participation riding transit using a cutaway van. They call them these because you take a perfectly good van and saw the back of it off. Well, actually, they come from the factory this way. But you can mount anything on the back you want, a U-Haul box or a bus body.
Because at its core, it's a gasoline-powered van. There's a tunnel under here for the exhaust pipe and for the drive shaft to go to the back wheels. So everything has to be built up above that tunnel. So people who care most about stairs, there's a bit of irony, are hit with a couple of stairs right away. Kind of see those double doors there where you can add an elevator or some kind of a lift to it. Not especially elegant, but, get the job done.
And that's the sales pitch for replacing these with the baby bus.
It makes it very accessible for people.
Roger DeHollander, who helps sell these to transit agencies, says it should also last a lot longer than a cutaway.
The city bus it's a very different application for a vehicle. It starts and stops every block. Just the design of a cutaway, it's gonna shake and rattle and come apart.
Honestly, it's pretty impressive that a regular van can do so many jobs, including being a bus. But when they do, Roger says they typically only last about 7 years. Since the baby bus is built like a bus, it should last twice as long. Add in the low floor, and this could be the perfect paratransit vehicle. The sales pitch for a second purpose probably applies more to cities in Europe. The baby bus is just over 8 feet wide, which means it fits down every street in America and almost every single one in Europe. Even streets that are less than 3 meters wide. If you speak that language. In a press release, Karsan, the company that makes this eJest baby bus, says they have a 12% market share of electric buses in France and 1/3 of all of them in Luxembourg, though that totals fewer than 400 buses so far. But this leaves us with the third and most interesting application, the reason why this town bought 15 of them.
What do you do after 8:30 when the regular bus routes stop for the night?
We looked at the data, and unfortunately, there isn't sufficient ridership beyond the 8:30 period for us to have 18 routes active.
And that's a problem if you are the one who needs a ride.
But you guys shut down before I get out of class or I close down the kitchen. We'll do something better. We'll provide door-to-door service after 8:30. We'll come to your curb, pick you up, and take you to your front door.
So somebody like me could pull my smartphone out, put in a destination, and wait around for a ride. Think I ought to give it a try? So it's after bus hours. And it's raining. Book a trip, so that's where I am. 8:21 to 8:51.
But it took a little bit longer than that.
The more people use it, probably the faster it gets, because you can keep the bus going. I wish it would show on the map where the bus was.
Because after waiting half an hour, I didn't want to miss it. There it is!
Yeah, where's he going?
Every bus I've ever boarded was at a stop.
Smart bus, no!
So this was a real learning curve for me, and being a new service, probably for the driver too.
Hello. Good, how are you?
It kind of reminds me of an airplane. During boarding, bright lights come on.
I'm trying to learn this thing too.
But once we take off, everything dims.
This reminds me more of a light rail vehicle than a bus, because it's electric,
The takeoffs and stops are smooth. Come on, it's got a black light. The driver seems more like Uber and less like bus.
Oh, Carl's Jr.'s fine. Okay. That's what I was trying to put in. And the doors open just like light rail. There. Okay, well, maybe see you later. Okay, take care.
But I was about
That's fun.
to be in for a big disappointment.
Oh, they may have the lobby closed. Well, the only downside of taking the bus and having to wait for it is their dining room closes at 8:30, so I'm not getting my shake here, I guess.
Too bad the bus couldn't stick around to drive me through the drive-thru, though with that amount of nimbleness, a baby bus certainly could.
Well, it's not every day you see a bus do a fast U-turn in the fast food drive-thru, right?
So right now, this is just a pilot project, so it's a science experiment, right? So G tells me it's only weeknights, 2 hours a weeknight, so 5 nights a week, 10 hours a week basically. And if it goes well, they might consider adding some time on the weekends or maybe extending the hours at night a little bit longer. But what he says you won't see anytime soon is this bus rolling around in the middle of the daytime.
One of the fears we had in operating microtransit and fixed route side by side is very much the idea of cannibalizing our fixed route. Putting as many people into a fixed route is the most efficient form. So maybe there is a day when both do coexist, but at least for this pilot, we want everybody on fixed route, and when that's not available, we are responding with microtransit.
Everything about running the baby bus at night is cheaper, right? Because the driver can have a CDL but doesn't have to. You don't have to nail the bus down to specific routes. It can go all over town, so that lets you get more distance out of the fleet. The price of the bus is less than half of the cost of buying a big city bus, so it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal, right? So you start putting fleets of these in the hands of big city transit networks where they may be running hundreds of these, and things might really start to change, especially if this happens.
While I was interviewing Roger DeHollander, he casually mentioned this.
Yes, that's right. Well, this bus will be autonomous within a year.
Well, hold up.
I mean, talk about burying the most interesting part of the story.
So I asked G.
We are aware that an autonomous version is soon to come to market. Santa Maria will analyze what autonomous applications are available in our city.
Forget prioritizing bus routes. Run all of the routes. Coverage, speed, frequency. Because if the bus is half the price and you don't have to pay for the driver at all, you could have unlimited buses with no drivers, right?
As of now, the answer seems unlikely. There will still need to be some kind of form of personnel on board to help individuals either navigate the space or again to provide security for our passengers on board. Bus drivers are more than just there to drive.
He was going to let me drive the little baby bus with or without the blue jacket, but it's nice. Gave this to me. It says SMART, S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T. I had the Simpsons reference.